Yeah, Weege show here. Where's here? Somehow I'm back in Las Vegas and at the palatial, massive PulpMX studio / mansion. Yes, Steve Matthes' place. If you listened to my appearance on the PulpMX show on Monday, you'll have heard Steve's rant about the fact that his wife, Pookie, unlike Steve, is actually cool and actually likable. And she actually has friends. And sometimes during the week, she leaves to hang out with her friends and Steve is left friendless. And then he put out a request for friends of his own. So as a true friend, I came out here today and we got to do what Steve loves the most. We put in an hour and 15-minute e-assist mountain bike ride. Check us out on Strava. And then ironically enough, he and his wife had tickets to a concert tonight and they left me alone. So I'm headed to the airport in a moment, and I'm also going to send this show to Arlington's AT&T Stadium, where Kellen Brauer is on hand with the Keyed show, and I'll give you the scoops about the track, the dirt, also talking to Ken Roxon and a lot of other riders on Press Day. And if you want more from Press Day, on this very same RacerX Motocross and Supercross YouTube channel, we have a full Press Day video. But I'm going to break some things down, all brought to you by this motorcycle right here, as seen on Colt Nichols' ride. This is a Honda CRF 450R, and also brought to you by the Honda CRF 250R, in action this weekend with Hunter Lawrence, who in a Triple Crown format is trying to show that he's not an identical twin that feels his brother's pain. Hunter wants to prove he can actually win a Triple Crown, unlike Jet, who crashed a ton when he had a Triple Crown race in Anaheim a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, it's Triple Crown weekend. Let's talk about it. But again, a shout out to this bike, the Honda CRF 450R and the 250R. Point and shoot handling, track tune suspension, and the most important thing that Honda's been working on, tractable, usable, low-end grunt to get you out of the corners faster to the next obstacle faster and help you chase checkered flags faster than that. So check out the brand that's been dominating this sport for over 50 years. Go to powersports.honda.com or check out your local Honda dealer. So yeah, Triple Crown. I feel like back in the day when they started doing Triple Crown races at Supercross, there wasn't a huge line in the sand between who was better at Triple Crowns than not, because Eli Tomac ended up being the best of the Triple Crowns, and he was the best of the regular races too. And Eli wasn't even a good starter in those days. So any theory is like, oh, you got to pick a guy that gets hole shots to win these Triple Crowns didn't even apply. Look how much gear and crud. Look at this extreme. I've never, ever done this. I've never touched PJ1 Extreme gear. Remember Extreme gear? Yeah, Steve has so much of this stuff. What do we got? We got retro Fox gear. That actually looks like what Roxon has today in Dallas. You'll see in a moment. I think this is, I'm going to assume, Jake Weimer gear, I think. Gosh, oh, this is Matthes when he was actually a mechanic at KTM. That's actually his mechanic's shirt. This is ridiculous. Oh my gosh, an actual Camel Supercross logo. I'm touching it. An actual logo. Whose jersey is this? Dean Matson. Dean Matson, everybody. Gear Racewear. It goes on and on. Man, this is awesome. Triple Crowns. Now I think we actually have something going. A difference between Triple Crown races and regular races. And it all hinges on Chase Sexton. And we've talked a lot about Chase Sexton on a lot of different shows, and I've written a lot about him. It's been discussed ad nauseum. Disappointing for Chase Sexton, or actually pretty good? The line is very thin. I mean, look, he's right in the championship hunt. Wow, that's like a... I think that's actually they designed to make it look like McGrath and Lamson's bike back in the day. This is not actually, it's just retro graphics on new plastic. I thought it was like a full-on McGrath shroud. Sexton's season, how do we describe it? Several races falling through his grasp when it looked like victory was there, right? That's a shame. So in that sense, it's bad, but he's only 7 points down. He has the speed. He's not hurt. He could still end up winning this championship, and what a story it would be if that happened. But the one race win he did get was at the Triple Crown in Anaheim, and guess what? Even then, he fell. But he got bailed out by the format. And his weakness in the racing has been where the weakness most shows, which is late in the races, which leads us to a bunch of theories as to why he can't seal the deal. Kind of reminds me of Tomac back in the day when Tomac would have these weirdo races, and we're like, what is wrong with Tomac? Why does he have these 2 or 3 races a year where he's not good? And we had every physical and mental theory in the world going as to why Eli would have these few weirdo races. And then last summer, during the Nationals, Eli just casually mentions, oh yeah, I like to run the back of my bike real tall as far as the sag is concerned, because if it's too low in the back, it tends to pull on my arms, and then I get arm pump and I go backwards. That's all the weirdo Eli races were. I mean, we had practically become professional shrinks trying to psychoanalyze why he'd have these 3 bad races a year. It was just a sag. Did have a bad one 2 weeks ago in Tampa, but then he said the track just, the dirt, said he felt like peanut butter when out in opening ceremonies, and he knew it wasn't going to be the kind of night where he was going to hang it out and push, and he took a 5th. Sometimes it's that simple. And maybe that's the case with Sexton. Maybe it is something simple about the bike, about his fitness, about himself. He's talked quite a bit about how hammered the tracks get down the stretch. And that's really where, with the strength of Tomac and the wise racecraft of Webb, that's where they excel. Webb, last week in Oakland, his final lap, when the track was as hammered as any Supercross track will ever get, he nearly turned in his very best lap of the race on the last lap. Yep, those are the kind of warriors that Sexton is dealing with. We might never find out what was wrong with Sexton in these races that he crashed away. Maybe he'll fix it. Maybe he won't. But even if he wins this weekend, we're not going to learn anything, because he'll just become, well, yes, he can win the 10-minute races, but not the 20-minute races guy. And with his speed and lately his starts, he might even be the favorite going into this weekend. And this short race is probably going to hurt Webb. As you'll hear Kellen Brauer say when we send it out there in a minute, the dirt is getting softer and softer, it seems, every year we go to Dallas. Now it's almost gone from a track that used to be hard pack and slick to maybe too tacky. Now it's going to rut and break down bad. That's usually where Webb does his best work, when you can start jumping through the whoops and go low in the corners to stay out of the ruts that are now too deep. But in a Triple Crown format, I'm not sure that's going to be able to play into his hand. It's probably going to hurt Webb, help Sexton. We know that Tomac's pretty good at everything. His starts have been good this year, but to try to neutralize that speed that Sexton has, they probably want more time, and they're not going to get it. Triple Crown has kind of changed the game. Look, even the restrooms at Steve's house are emblazoned with great memorabilia, like Justin Brayton jersey, Enzo Lopes from last year, Justin Starling. Look at that. It's David Bailey, Jeff Ward, Ron Lachine. Maybe the most underrated rider ever, Jean-Michel Bale. We don't talk about him enough. There's Jeff Stanton in his seminal 1989 season where he kind of took over the sport when Rick Johnson got hurt. So Triple Crowns are different, and it might be different winners. And it's unfortunate for Sexton that even if he wins this weekend, it won't necessarily prove that he's solved the problems. Other riders want to get up there. Certainly Ken Roxon. Kellen will talk about him. And Aaron Plessinger has some momentum. Kellen will talk about him as well. I feel like Jason Anderson really, really needs a good one. Look, he's had speed this year. Some races he's thrown away with crashes or mistakes or run-ins with other riders, like Justin Barcia. But other weeks, he just hasn't quite been fast enough to win. He kind of started with that lead group last year, and they got away from him, and then eventually fell over. So he really needs a win to try to salvage anything. Points-wise, he's in a big problem spot, but I don't even think it's about points right now. Just getting a win to reestablish some momentum and confidence, that would be big. But I do feel like Anderson really excels when the track is slippery. He's so good at finding traction, or maybe his motorcycle is, some combination of those two things. But that doesn't necessarily apply now that Dallas is so tacky. If we had old school Dallas, Arlington conditions, Anderson might be the favorite. So we'll see how the Triple Crown format turns out. 250 East is back. Thanks to Honda for backing our show. Steve left for a concert with his wife. I'm all alone without a friend, so I'm going to send it to Kellen, and let's find out what's happening in Texas.
Yeah, Weege Show coming to you here at AT&T Stadium, right where the Dallas Cowboys play, on the field, quite literally here today for press day. And we're talking to a couple of guys here on the track, talking about what we think the track is going to be like here this weekend, because obviously last week, Oakland, the track played a huge part in a lot of different things. Maybe not Chase Sexton going down, but the whoops were kind of treacherous. A lot of guys complained about the whoops, and here are the whoops behind me. We talked to a couple of the guys today about the whoops, and you can see obviously it's still a pretty long set. It's 12 whoops total. There's a starter whoop coming into it, and then right behind me, what I'm standing on is actually a Dragon's Back, which has five rollers, I should say, coming up it, and it's right out of a 90-degree corner back here as well. So you might see guys going inside roll, triple up to the top, triple off onto this tabletop that's also right behind me back here. But talking about the whoops specifically, talked to a couple guys today about, what do we expect these whoops to look like this week? And even though they are a long set and Texas usually gets a little bit hard packed, we're already seeing, based on futures qualifying and a couple of other things that have gone on today, these guys think that these whoops are still going to break down. I mean, you can even see down here on this last whoop right here, there's already some notches in it, and they're not even hitting it on press day. The guys riding press day in the background back here are only riding a portion of the track, so this is all just from futures qualifying. And if we go up here into this berm right here, you can even see this berm has pretty well dug out already anyway. So the dirt here, even though it's kind of, you know, that Texas hard packed dirt that we're a little bit more used to, it still seems like it's going to break down and be kind of soft this weekend. So the guys do think that these whoops might maybe become jumpers in some shape or form, but we'll have to see obviously on Saturday. Now, a couple of the storylines coming into this weekend, talked to Eli Tomac, he just got his 48th career win. That was a big deal for him, obviously, but now the biggest deal is he has 4 wins in the first 6 rounds of the year. He feels pretty happy about where he's at. He even said so. You can watch our interview footage that we did on press day. Tom Jurnett and I walking around getting some of the interviews done, so you guys can follow along there. But Eli's pretty happy about where he's at. He's pretty happy with the start of the season. He feels like as we get into this mid-swing, things are going to start becoming a little bit more normal. We're going to see a normal trend of guys being at the front more often. We're already kind of seeing it anyway with Sexton, Webb, Tomac already kind of being the guys that we see most often at the front. But for Eli's sake, being in the position that he's already in is maybe the most unfamiliar part, being this you know, strong early on in the season, as Januaries normally aren't that great, but his January has been awesome. So we talked to Cooper Webb a little bit about how he's feeling. He kind of said he wishes he got the ball rolling a little bit earlier on in the main event last week, because he felt like he had the pace to maybe run with those guys. And we also talked to Aaron Plessinger, who finished 4th at Oakland, and he said kind of the same thing, where he wished he would have passed Anderson and who else was he behind? Maybe Barsha. He wishes he would have passed him a little bit earlier on, because he felt like he had the speed in Oakland to run with Coop, with Sexton, with Tomac out front. So he's excited this weekend to kind of show maybe that's what the speed that he's been showing lately can run up front, can be up front, and actually stay up front. 4-3-4 in the last 3 rounds for Aaron Plessinger. He has looked very, very good. And it's a Triple Crown, so the Triple Crown this weekend will make things a little bit more interesting as well. Trying to show some of the guys riding in the background. They're really just doing like this finish line jump. There's actually a tunnel jump right there that you can see. They're gonna go over it and then through a right-hand sweeper corner into a double into this back section over here. Pretty unique track this weekend, honestly. It's a weird design. They're only riding part of it right now, like I said. But back to the storylines, obviously Plessinger's been good. Tomac's been great. Webb's been pretty good. We also talked to Ken Roxon, who had a lackluster 11th place finish in Oakland. And he says it's really down to the fact that he's trying so many different setups on the bike. He's trying to find more comfort here. He's trying to do this here, and nothing ever really clicks. So he's hoping as we get into this middle part of the season that he finds a setup that he's comfortable with a little bit everywhere. It's not perfect, but he can just ride it and do those, you know, consistent laps and push the envelope with the setup that he's able to do a little bit of everything good everywhere. So that's the one thing that he felt like he needs to figure out. He says he is still working with Factory Connection, so do it with that information what you want. But you know, he even said to us, like, what do you mean? 11th place is fine, and he knows that he has to do better. So that's kind of a couple of the 450 storylines, the 250 storylines. Obviously, we're back racing east this weekend, so Hunter Lawrence, Hayden Deegan's out here riding right now, trying to get him as he goes by. We got Nate Thrasher coming out from under the tunnel right here, so that's Thrasher getting tailed around by a couple of guys, Talon Hawkins and a couple other people here. But you know, Hayden Deegan has been strong to start his 250 career thus far, 4th in the standings, and he looks strong out here on press day again, so no difference there for Deegan. But can we see like an Anstey, or can we see Jordan Smith, Nate Thrasher, can we see some of these guys step up and challenge Hunter Lawrence? That's going to be the key storyline in this 250 class. And so far, he's kind of proven through 2 rounds that he's arguably the guy to beat. He can come from behind and win. He can start up front and win. So if, you know, this kind of throws a bit of a curveball in it, because it is a Triple Crown, and maybe is a little bit of a wrench in the plans for Hunter Lawrence, where it's not a familiar 15-minute main event. And we've seen Jet Lawrence, his brother, struggle in these Triple Crowns before. So is that going to play into Hunter's favor or detriment? We'll have to see. But at least maybe these guys have a little bit of a window of opportunity to get in here, ruffle Hunter's feathers this weekend in Arlington. We'll have to see. But that's kind of the story here on the track. Dirt looks a little bit softer than maybe expected. The guys all echoed that sentiment here today. Rhythm lines are pretty standard. There's a rhythm lane down this section over here where these guys are trying to maybe double over the starting line, and then they're going to triple and maybe quad double into the corner. But I've only seen like 2 450 guys actually get the double over the start line. So the line right now is to roll, and I'll have some footage for you guys to watch, but roll in. Then they're going to go double in, triple on off the table, and triple into the corner. That seems to be the main line right now. But yeah, the dirt's breaking down. I have a footage of this corner over here before the Supercross triple that was breaking down a lot just from the 250 and 450 guys riding on it today, and it's not even everybody out there. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if these whoops hold up. We'll have to see if they turn into jumpers. We'll have to see if this dirt holds up. But right now, it looks a little bit softer than I think most people expected here on press day, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. But thanks again to Honda, the CRF 250R and 450R for backing the Weege show here. Kellen Brauer on the floor here in AT&T Stadium, giving you guys the scoops, the synopsis of what's going on here on press day. Back to you, Weege. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, that's our show. Check this out. No Fear. Remember this? Yeah, No Fear gear. Actually printed out this. This is an original, not the first year. I think this might be the second year of the Splitfire Peak Pro Circuit Honda team. It's one of the team shirts. This is like before teams had team shirts. A lot of innovations in both the performance and look of that original Pro Circuit team. That squad will be back in action with the veteran Chris Blos, who's filling in for a slew of injured riders for that squad. Steve's not here. Maybe I'll take this one home with me. We'll see you tomorrow night after the press conference in Arlington and see what happens as we roll through Monster Energy Supercross in Texas.